You know, a lot of times when you think of, I think people think of a musical, there's like a really like a woohoo, let's go and get them, you know, like really kind of a wild, you know, exuberance. And I think this piece operates in a kind of, that's like a delicate, it's a more delicate kind of rhythm and tone, in that it's kind of incredible how every character in it has a song that kind of reveals their, you know, insecurities or their like unquenched longings or their great fears, you know, and so it's both truly wildly, deeply romantic and kind of, you know, very, very, very human in how it looks at how vulnerable we all are kind of in the hunt for love. So I think it needs to be kind of impossibly beautiful, but also, you know, bittersweet, heartbreaking, you know, and kind of tattered in the way that life really is, that it's not a candy cane kind of version. I think it's a much more complicated human portrait. And I even, you know, I've been thinking about the customers who come into the shop, and that the shop is really, you know, is a perfumery, and that everybody's coming in there, you know, to buy something to beautify themselves. I mean, and that right in that act there's something kind of very human and vulnerable, and also kind of delicious and theatrical, you know. But that there's that, if you kind of, every metaphor in the play feels like it has, what am I trying to say? It's like rich in human complexity. And I guess that's what I mean about, like, it feels like, you know, it wants to have a warmth and a playfulness, but also a kind of a willingness to go into, you know, there's an attempted suicide in She Loves Me, you know, and two great lovers, you know, come together in the most kind of ecstatic possible way, you know, through blunder and all. So it needs to be a world that contain those two things, and I think that's a very human, very layered, textured, kind of open-hearted. I feel like sticking very much with, you know, that it's in Budapest. I think its time period is important. I just don't see I don't see a good reason to impose on it. I think it's so sort of detailed to that world, and it speaks to us partly because of that. You know, it's so much its own universe, and it reflects so much, you know, all human feeling, but in its particulars. So I don't feel any need to push up against that, but to kind of lean into it, and I think make it its most sensuous, evocative, you know, beautiful human self. Not to make any big choices. It's sort of like when I, you know, like, working on Shakespeare, I never want to counter the text. You know, it's like a kind of really trusting the text, and I think this text has enormous integrity and beauty. And the music, like, let the music really be our guide. I was just saying in a meeting that the number one priority in this production to me is the music. Is the, you know, that the music, that the quality of the voice and the way voice releases emotion, and the humanness of these, like the really, you know, how within a song you can really explode a kind of, you know, ecstasy and also release profound heartbreak. And that there needs to be a real authenticity in that. I was saying, you know, I'd rather not do this with any synthesizer, very sort of pure sound. And, you know, it's interesting that it ends with a snowfall, that there's something about this sort of a winter, this incredibly beautiful kind of, I imagine, incandescent winter, you know, but that in the snow, you know, that there's something incredibly shimmering and beautiful, and also sort of cold and isolating, and it's somehow capturing a spirit that can contain that.